Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Cory, half of the Brothers Geek of the Acts of Geekery podcast here, and we are going to do a Let's Play. What? I know I've been saying I will for a long time, but we're finally getting around to it, mostly because something cool has happened in Hearthstone. Easiest thing to Let's Play is Hearthstone, let's be honest here. So, as you can see, I got my cool Goblins vs. Gnomes background, which was an awesome expansion. But we are going to be talking today about Blackrock Mountain. Yay! The new Hearthstone adventure that just came out April 2nd. You can get it. You can get all the wings. They come out week by week. And a lot of YouTubers who play Hearthstone are probably going to be reviewing and doing Let's Play videos for this. So, what's going to make ours unique? Well, let me tell you. I'm a huge fan of role-playing. I absolutely love it. I have characters on a role-play server in World of Warcraft. I've got... I write stories all the time. I run a game of Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, I build worlds. I pretty much, like, if it's role-play, I'm totally into it. The stories are just fantastic. So, for us, we are going to do a story mode version of this adventure mode. And we're going to take one of the characters from my World of Warcraft character list, and we're going to create a deck based on that to kind of give us a cool little adventure that's a little bit different than just watching people beat bosses. Now, for those of you who are watching Hearthstone and watching Hearthstone videos to watch how to beat bosses or the best decks to use, this is not going to be a video for you. Because, well, let's face it, making a deck around a certain character is going to make it a little bit bad. Actually, probably very bad. So, if you're looking for a good representation of the game, I would recommend Moz, Day9, Total Biscuit, some of these other famous, actual good Hearthstone players. But if you're looking to have a fun little adventure with me, then, or with anybody, it doesn't have to be with me, but I'm glad that you are choosing to have it with me. So, before we get in and talk about the character we're going to be playing as and the deck that we're going to be building, let us talk about Blackrock Mountain itself. Blackrock Mountain is separated into 5 different wings throughout the course of the adventure. And we're going to kind of discuss a little bit about it. Blackrock Mountain is basically the Mordor of World of Warcraft. A lot of bad stuff goes on here. There's evil dwarves, evil dragons, evil orcs, all wanting to do different things that will basically destroy the world. And we're going to kind of run through the different wings that we're going to be experiencing so you guys can get a feel of Blackrock Mountain. And then we'll talk about, in the coming videos, you'll get to have a feel of why the character that we're going to be playing as wants to be adventuring through Blackrock Mountain. So we're going to start with Blackrock Depths, which is the first wing that is open now. Blackrock Depths is the home of the Dark Iron Dwarves. You can see it pictured here. Dark Iron Dwarves are basically the evil dwarves. They have grayish, blackish skin, which, now that I think about it, is incredibly racist, but black is usually associated with evil in fantasy worlds. But come on, Blizzard. I mean, seriously? Anyway, the Dark Iron Dwarves are a group of people who build cool machinery. They build mole machines to try and do subterranean attacks against their lighter cousins with the regular Ironforged Dwarves. And they also create a lot of cool golems that help them fight. And they are led by this man. This is Emperor Thyro Zane, I believe is how you say his name. He is the king of the Dark Iron Dwarves. He's a pretty nasty customer. He's kidnapped princesses before, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more as we get into the storyline. But he is a nasty, nasty customer, and we will be fighting him from what I understand. Next is the second wing of the Blackrock Mountain Hearthstone adventure is Molten Core. The Molten Core is basically the area where all elemental fire comes from. Every primordial bit of elemental fire stems from this singular location and then spreads out through the world. It is a very dangerous place to be, full of fire elementals whose only task in the entire idea of a universe that is Azeroth is to burn it to the ground, and they are led by this lovely elemental fire lord called Ragnaros. Ragnaros is a tough customer, if you can't tell here. He is basically a god. He was one of the generals of the old gods when they had their little elemental spats, and he's been so bad that he's actually been in 2 different expansions, the original game and then another expansion. They brought him back because he's just that badass. The next one is Blackwing Lair. No. We're getting ahead of ourselves. This is Blackrock Spire. This is the home of the Blackrock clan of orcs, and sometimes the Dragon Maw clan of orcs. The Blackrock orcs are orcs with ruddier, darker skin. Again, come on, Blizzard, what the heck are you doing? But they are they're orcs who rather like to enslave dragons. There's a lot of experimentation that goes on here, making new abominations of dragons and controlling them. And the goal of the Blackrock orcs is to amass an army that will be able to conquer Azeroth for the true what they see as the true horde, which is a horde without the leader Vol'jin. They are led by this man, Mr. Rend Blackhand. He is a very dangerous orc. He has his own dragon mount and basically rules with not an iron fist, because as you can see, he doesn't have iron fists on him, but he rules with a bad fist. A bad fist? Evil fist? I don't know. Well, now we can get into Blackwing Lair, which I really couldn't get a good representation of except for the entrance to it. But I guess it's such a big place and it's so unique that there's really no one picture that represents it very well. And Blackwing Lair is the home of the Black Dragons. Again, the Black Dragons being the evil dragons in World of Warcraft. And then there is also, the 5th wing is also the Hidden Laboratory, which is where all of the experimentation on different dragons takes place. You can kind of see a little bit of the Hidden Laboratory here in this picture. And they are both run by Nefarian. Now, Nefarian is a black dragon who is pretty much heir to the throne. He's been kind of a baddie since day one. Again, he's been in 2 different expansions. And he is actually the son of Deathwing. And if you know anything about World of Warcraft, you know who Deathwing is. But for those of you who don't know anything about World of Warcraft, Deathwing is the aspect of the Black Dragons, basically the king of the Black Dragons. He goes crazy because he lives too close to the old gods and they corrupt him, and he ends up getting so much power that they have to graft iron onto him, or like adamantium armor. Adamantine? Whatever. Adamantium, yeah, sure, he's Wolverine. They graft armor onto him to contain him and basically hold him in place. He was pretty much almost the destroyer of the world in one of the expansions, and his offspring is no better. His offspring is one tough customer. So, who is going to be braving the depths of Blackrock Mountain? There are a lot of choices that I could have made. I have a lot of characters with detailed backgrounds and storylines, but I think the one that is most fitting is a little guy. He wouldn't like you to call him a little guy, known as Artemis Quickspark. Oh, excuse me, Lord Artemis Quickspark. He's my gnome warlock. He has been gnome warlock and engineer, I should say, because as you can see, he's kind of got the goggles. He has been kind of, I guess the best way to describe it is he is a D-list supervillain in the pantheon of the characters that I have created and the characters that my wife has created as well. He's not really good at what he does at being evil, but he tries really hard, much to hilarious results. Being a gnome is not really good for villainy, but his small stature does not detract from who he is, which is, well, he thinks he's a great villain, but in reality, not really. His notable schemes include selling bombs to a bunch of Murlocs to attack a town in Elwyn, which, if you really stop and analyze it, which he didn't, you can't really give dynamite or anything that uses gunpowder to a race that goes underwater a lot. It doesn't really work too well. He has donated. He's basically been an arms dealer for the first good 30 levels of his life, donating different weaponry to different groups. The Defias, actually, you know what? I think it's just the Defias. He hasn't really done much. But he's been kind of just a thorn in everybody's side. He's a self-proclaimed antagonist, but people really don't see him as too much of a threat. And we will see how much of a threat he really is, because we are going to be building a deck around Artemis and around the different characters that he employs or that work for him, basically, his henchmen. So let's go ahead and get into the collection here. We'll make a deck slot. Artemis is a Warlock, so obviously we are going to pick the Warlock class. Don't be fooled by Gul'dan. He's not going to be that powerful. And let's start with what defines Artemis. Artemis is defined by destruction magic. He really enjoys fire. Not so much demonic spells like Mortal Coil or Drain Life or Shadow Bolt. He's not really too much into the shadow magic. He's more into beefing up his minions and dealing fire damage. So we're going to get a couple soul fires in there. That's kind of an obvious choice. It's got the word fire in it. We are going to go with Dark Bomb, because that is right there a mixture of technology and demonic magic, which is kind of right up Artemis's alley. Like I said, we're not going to do something like Drain Life. We're not going to do Shadow Bolts. We're going to go ahead and get one Hellfire, just because it's basically fire, and it is pretty awesome. Shadow Flame? No, not really. Looking here. Okay, so what else defines Artemis? Well, Artemis is defined, like I said, by beefing up his minions to do his dirty work for him. So we're going to get a couple Power Overwhelmings in there, which will give us a nice little buff for a turn. We're going to get some Demon Fires, which make people cringe, because Demon Fire, most people don't think it's a good spell. I think it's a fine spell for an adventure mode. And we're actually going to get one Demon Heart, which is like a souped-up version of Demon Fire. I like it. So, what kind of creatures can we pump up with these spells? Well, Artemis has demon companions that come with him. Most notably, because he's first, is his imp companion, Piznip. Now, Piznip is a gentleman who is kind of the brains behind the demons that work for Artemis. He likes to stay back and kind of do the planning and the sneaking around. So he doesn't really fit the Flame Imp type. That would probably be better. He's actually going to be our Blood Imp, which has stealth, so it likes to stick behind the battlefield and make others do the work for it. We're only going to do one, because Artemis only has one Piznip. Piznip is an actual character. But Artemis's biggest character, his toughest, his biggest bruiser, basically, that's a demon, is his Voidwalker, Zarmoth. Zarmoth is the strong silent type, very strong, very silent, and he's kind of Artemis's closest companion, mostly because he's the muscle that Artemis needs on a daily basis. While I do use Zarmoth to protect Artemis when I'm playing as him in World of Warcraft, so the Voidwalker with Taunt would work really well. I think to represent how strong Zarmoth is, we should get the Void Caller, which is a little bit higher in power and defense, because that's how Zarmoth acts. There are no Fell Hunter companion or demons at all in Hearthstone, which is kind of a weird oversight. So we're going to skip his Fell Hunter companion. Kind of sad, but okay, whatever. And we'll talk about his succubus. His succubus's name is Nizantia, and she is what is considered in the succubus community to be a bad succubus. Like she's not as attractive as other succubuses, which, you know, still by human standards is very attractive, but by demon standards she's kind of ugly, and she's been downtrodden a lot, and that's the only reason that Artemis was ever able to grab a succubus, because he's not that good at being a warlock, but Nizantia is not that good at being a succubus. So we're going to go ahead and go with one of these two succubuses, and while this one is pretty powerful in stats, it doesn't really represent what a succubus is for Nizantia. She's her wings are all torn, she's kind of downtrodden. She likes to help Artemis because she thinks Artemis saved her from all of the bad stuff that happened, or that was happening to her. Bad stuff as in people making fun of her, which is all a succubus cares about. So given that she likes to help Artemis, I think the Mistress of Pain is a little bit more closer to what she actually is. So we're going to go with one of those. He can summon a Doom Guard and summon a Dread Infernal. They don't really have names. They're just kind of a summon and let go kind of Hulk situation. Like you drop a bomb and then watch it run around until it dies. So we're going to get one of each of those. And what other characters help define who Artemis is? Well, I'll tell you, if Artemis is the Joker, which he's not, let's be clear on that. He is definitely not the Joker. But if he were an equivalent of the Joker, then he would have a Harley Quinn to join him. And indeed he does. He has a woman by the name of Artemisia, who is a gnome priestess, kind of a dark soul priestess, who follows him around and is completely enamored with him. He does not treat her well at all. He doesn't really have any sexual appeal going for him much at all. But she sees them as a couple, and she's very protective of him. So we're going to go, there's two choices for gnome women. There's the Novice Engineer, and then there's the Pint-Sized Summoner. The Novice Engineer is nice because it's kind of a cool little card draw. It kind of fits the engineer pattern, but Artemisia is actually not an engineer. She's an alchemist. So we're going to go ahead and go with the Pint-Sized Summoner, which helps Artemis a little bit, but isn't really that helpful, which kind of defines who Artemisia is. She's kind of a nuisance to Artemis, but at times she's still useful. So what else defines Artemis? Well, Artemis is, beyond just being a warlock, he is also an engineer. So we have to pick some engineering, mechanical fun times that kind of help define him. The first one, we're going to go ahead and pick one Fell Cannon, because that kind of is the cool warlock mech to go with. We are going to pick two Annoyatrons, because that seems like something Artemis would make to distract his enemies while he does the work behind the scenes. Explosive Sheeps are definitely a mainstay for warlocks. We are going to go with, let's see here. What else would be? Oh, a couple of Micro Machines. That is definitely something Artemis would make. And let's see. No, not really Alarmabots. Looking through here. Oh, Artemis has a flying machine. That is for sure. Harvest Golem. Yeah, you know what? A little bit of extra muscle isn't bad. And Artemis's really biggest defining achievement is... where is it? Not a Jeeves. It happens to be his Sky Golem, which is right here. The piloted Sky Golem is a very fun card in Hearthstone, and it kind of fits in with Artemis. He tried to make a Sky Golem, or he succeeded. He actually worked really hard at it because he didn't want to feel tiny anymore. And basically, driving around in a piloted mech is a wonderful thing. So let's see what else we got here. So, what evil mastermind doesn't try and put himself in the situation every now and then? Most try and let their minions do it, and when they can't, they do that whole, looks like I'll have to do this myself kind of thing, which will be really fun. So we got to find a card that really defines Artemis for when he takes to the battlefield. As much as he would like to think he's a Dr. Boom, which is a very powerful Hearthstone card right now, I would say he's more of a Gelbin Mechatorque, which summons an awesome invention. Still really cool, but it's not really as good as Dr. Boom is, which kind of defines Artemis. He thinks he's this, but he's actually that. So we're going to go with that. Looks like we have a couple cards left here. So we're going to see here what else we got. Let's see. We could go with the Jeeves. I'm not really too big on too much more card draw. The Warlock already has plenty of card draw in it. We could go with a Tinkertown Tech. No. Ooh, let's go with the Spider Tank. I think that sounds like a crazy invention that Artemis would make for himself. Just look at that thing. That is definitely an Artemis invention. So we've got 2 cards left. What do we have here? Ooh, you know what? What evil mastermind would be complete without hired mooks? They're kind of the backbone of any society. We could go with a couple ogre brutes, which would be kind of cool. But I think to kind of go with the way the deck is with a lot of these one attack creatures in the beginning, we should go with a couple hobgoblins, which are kind of more on Artemis's level of hiring. He thinks they're okay, but they're so-so. So we're gonna, oh, look at that. We are done. So this is definitely Artemis's deck. If you'll notice, his name is not actually spelled like Artemis usually is. Do not call him R times. He does not like it. But that may or may not have been how his parents have named him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have got quite the fun adventure ahead. When we get into it, we're going to go full-on story mode. We're not really going to talk about the cards or anything. We're going to play it as if it were an actual adventure. Looks like we've got, man, if there's any like professional Hearthstone players watching this video right now, they are cringing at the awful deck we have just made. But you know what? I have a lot of fun with it, and we are just going to see how it goes. Oh, you know, I'm not really happy with the Harvest Golem. Not happy at all. It seems like a creation that Artemis would make, but I think, you know what? I think we're going to go with the Sacrificial Pact, which is a destroy a demon, restore 5 health to your hero, which kind of works with Artemis very well because he would definitely sacrifice one of his creatures in order to get himself a little bit of extra life. Plus, you never know when you might need that. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're looking forward to more as much as I am, you can join us next time where we start our Blackrock Mountain adventure. Until next time, bye!